Chapter 546. Receiving no reply from Yama despite all his earlier provocation, Nagato frowned slightly. His gaze swept over everyone on the opposite side of the battlefield, paused on Jiraiya for a short moment, then finally returned to Yama's figure again, as he said, "As I thought, you really are afraid. That's why you are hesitating. It seems that you are not as strong as you appear to be on the surface." But there was still no reply from Yama. Seeing Yama silent, Madara also looked at him with a curious and playful expression. Before Nagato said anything, Madara was already starting to get suspicious of Yama's unnatural behavior of remaining silent and not taking any action to stop them, despite the fact that Karatachi Yagura and Killer Bee are being constantly stripped of the Biju sealed inside them and may end up losing their life at any point. And now that Nagato has openly pointed out the fact that Yama is afraid, and yet Yama has not taken any action, nor even expression any sort of reaction. So Madara is even more certain. At the same time, the trace of worry on the face of Sandaime Hokage became even more apparent. Even Sanin Jiraiya and Tsunade Hime glanced at each other silently. Both of them could guess each other's thoughts and knew that both of them had the same worry in their hearts. Floating in the sky, the face of Sandaime Tsuchikage Onoki also sank, and he can't help but mutter, "Has what the leader of the Akatsuki organization said really true? Even the leader of the Amatsukami organization is also afraid of him. If even Yama is afraid of him, then who can oppose Nagato?" But unfortunately, there is no one to answer Sandaime Tsuchikage's doubts. And behind Yama, Homusubi and Shisui clenched their palms that were already filled with cold sweat. Both of them know the nature of Yama better than anyone else, at least they think that they do. This is why they understand that if Yama is certain of winning, he would never hesitate to make the decisive move, especially in the case where Gedo Mazo is constantly absorbing the Sanbi and Hachibi chakra of their respective Jinchuriki hosts. But the fact that Yama has not yet taken any action to stop Nagato and Gedo Mazo is also clear. Therefore, Shisui can't help but think, is Kuroto-san really not sure? Although Shisui is not completely certain, the moment such a thought appeared in his mind, he reached a certain determination. His expression became resolute, and with this resolute expression of his, he slightly glanced at Homusubi standing beside him. Homusubi only needed a momentary look at Shisui's eyes to understand Shisui's thoughts, and he too nodded slightly in acquiescence, because he has the same thoughts as Shisui. Undoubtedly, Shisui has made the determination to sacrifice himself in order to create a winning opportunity for Yama. And similar to Shisui, Itachi, disguised as Homusubi, also made up his mind to sacrifice himself in order to create a winning opportunity for Yama. Itachi knows that he is a shinobi, and as a shinobi, if he were to sacrifice himself for the sake of the peace of Konoha and the shinobi world, then he thinks that his death and sacrifice would mean something. He would die as a true shinobi and would be proud of himself that he acted as per his beliefs until the very end of his life. With these thoughts and determination in their hearts, both Shisui and Homusubi cast their eyes on Yama's back. Both of them firmly believe that Yama will definitely help the village to get through tonight's catastrophe. Therefore, both of them must do all that they can to help Yama, even if it results in their deaths. At the moment, when the atmosphere was so suffocating that even breathing had become difficult and everyone was more or less prepared for their impending deaths, Yama suddenly turned his head slightly and questioned Sandaime Hokage. "If I remember correctly, you are the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha Village, Sarutobi Hiruzen, right?" Hiruzen was taken aback and nodded. "Yes, that's right." Although he didn't know why exactly was Yama talking to him all of a sudden. Moreover, asking such a stupid question, he nodded nonetheless. No way, he did not want to offend Yama at any cost, as Yama might be the only person alive capable of stopping the current Nagato. With Hiruzen's acquiescence, Yama nodded slightly and continued, "The proposal we made to you a few months back. Do you remember it? And have you considered it?" Hiruzen frowned upon hearing the term proposal from Yama, and suddenly remembered the events from a few months ago, and immediately nodded, "Yes, I do remember, and I agree to your terms." It happened just after the retreat of the Akatsuki organization, following the defeat of Nagato at the hands of Yama at the War of the Best. The proposal was made by Homusubi, and it said that if the villages can afford the price, then a Matsukami would be willing to fight the Akatsuki organization in your stead. Chap 369. At that time, Sandemi neither agreed nor denied, because he still had confidence in his planning and the strength of the 5 great shinobi villages. But considering the current situation, he would be a fool if he still does not agree to the so-called proposal of a Matsukami. Everyone on the scene looked at Yama and Hiruzen with confused expressions, not understanding what the two of them were talking about. Of course, Homusubi was an exception to these, as he perfectly understood what exactly are the two talking about and can't help but flash a bitter smile. Really? Now, of all times? Not caring about what others were thinking, Yama continued, "So, now that you have considered it and agreed to our proposal, then I will name the price." Really, deciding on a suitable price was a very difficult task, even for me. It took me a lot of time, consideration, and brainstorming to think of a suitable conclusion. Of course, I am not an unreasonable or greedy person, and also took into account the heavy damage that Konoha has suffered tonight while reaching the conclusion. Huh? What is this am I hearing all of a sudden? You all are saying that I am a very kind and generous fellow? I know it myself, so you all don't need to say it. I can tell that you all are looking up to my generous self and truly admiring me in your hearts, but admiring and praising me won't get you anywhere, so keep your thought to yourself. Anyway, putting aside the thoughts of my admirers, after much thinking and deliberation, I decided on 20 million ryo for saving each Kage, 15 million ryo for each Jinchuriki, and 10 million ryo for saving each Jonin. How is it this price isn't too high and quite affordable, right? Hiruzen's eyes twitched at Yama's narcissistic words and almost coughed out old blood upon hearing the generous price mentioned by Yama. Of course, Hiruzen wouldn't say that the price is unreasonable. In fact, it is not too much for saving the lives of several Kage, Jinchuriki, and dozens of elite Jonins, but the way Yama said that he took various things into account, Hiruzen can't help but really want to curse this guy as a true narcissist. As Yama mentioned different prices for saving people of different ranks and identities, the others present on the battlefield suddenly realized what kind of proposal was Yama talking about and can't help but look at each other with blank faces. They never expected that the leader of a Matsukami would be such a narcissistic fellow and suddenly start talking about business on the battlefield, moreover, on such a battlefield where the lives of several Kages are hanging on the edge of a rope. Before anyone could say anything, the old and spicy Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, Sarutobi Hiruzen, took a deep breath and promised in a solemn tone, "Please save as many people as you can, Yama-sama. As for the expenses for employing the mercenary organization Matsukami, we will bear all the expenses and would pay everything after the events tonight are over." As soon as Sandaime Hokage finished speaking, the other ninjas on the battlefield also nodded to show their acquiescence to Sandaime Hokage. Of course, their acquiescence appeared quite unnatural because of their stiff faces. But no matter what, the doubts that had appeared in the hearts of everyone and the faith in a Matsukami that was starting to get lost was now restored. At the same time, everyone felt that the reason why Yama was hesitating just now was not that he is afraid of the leader of the Akatsuki organization, but because he was considering serious business matters and also driving all of them into a desperate psychological state so that they immediately agree to his proposal without much thinking. This also shows that despite being a narcissistic fellow, Yama has an excellent and opportunistic mind. In fact, a certain legendary sucker who would not like to be named publicly because of their bad habit of gambling looked at Yama in real admiration and thought, I must also learn things from him about how to take advantage of such opportunities to make money. If I too can be like him, then I would never get short on money. And if I am not short on money, then I can gamble all the time I want without any fear of being chased by the debt collectors. That's right. That's right. Anyway, putting aside the secret thoughts of a certain fat sheep 106 centimeters bust size, Shisui and Homusubi were rather embarrassed about Yama's actions. Only a few moments ago, they had made up their minds to sacrifice their lives in order to create an opportunity for Yama to defeat Nagato, because they felt that Yama might not be able to do so on his own. But now, this happened? To be quite honest, they never expected that the true reason behind Yama's hesitation was not that his strength is not enough to defeat Nagato, but because he was considering important business matters. Although embarrassed, both of them were still glad that the situation is not as bad as they had presumed. Of course, unlike Shisui and Homusubi, not everyone was glad. Upon hearing Yama's narcissistic words, Nagato, who stood opposite Yama, was annoyed and said coldly, Yama, you are being too arrogant despite knowing that you have no chance of winning. You can try to gloss it all you want, but you won't be able to save anyone today. Hearing Nagato's words, Yama slightly tilted his head to the side and then spoke in a disdainful tone. A pitiful puppet who has lived all his life dancing in the palm of someone else without ever even realizing the truth of the matter. Although I do wonder where your inexplicable self-confidence comes from, I am not that interested in knowing about it. And it's no longer important enough. Anyway, since you are so ardent to again have a taste of failure, I am more than willing to fulfill your wish. Having said that, Yama lifted his left hand and lightly flicked his index and middle finger. Immediately following Yama's flick, except for Karatachi Yagura and Killer Bee, who were held tightly by purple and golden chakra chains, all the shinobi lying on the battlefield, whether dead or alive, were pulled by a very strong force and instantly moved to the other side of the battlefield, that is behind Yama. It's really Bansho Tenin. How can he use this jutsu? Konan, Madara, and the hidden Black Zetsu were shocked upon realizing the meaning of Yama being able to use the jutsu he used just now. After all, Bansho Tenin is not an ordinary jutsu. It's a visual jutsu that only the rinnegan bearers can use. They did not expect Yama to be capable of using a rinnegan jutsu. Moreover, not long ago, Nagato stated that Yama too has some kind of dojutsu. These two pieces of information lead to a certain absurd conclusion that neither of the three would like to believe in, but can't help but think about the possibility of it really being the case. Is it possible that Yama also bears the rinnegan? Nagato's eyes condensed, but his expression remained unchanged. In his previous fight with Yama, Nagato had already discovered the fact that Yama is capable of using Shinra Tensei and Bansho Tenin. Therefore, the scene just now was not a surprise for him. On the side of the 5 great shinobi villages, everyone was shocked and frightened upon seeing the fact that Yama just flicked his fingers lightly. Immediately after that, almost all the shinobi lying on the battlefield flew over by themselves and were orderly placed at a safe distance from the battlefield. No way, such a jutsu is really amazing for them. Even the experienced Sandaime Hokage and Sandaime Tsuchikage can't tell the exact principle of this jutsu and can only make some inexplicable guesses. Nagato did not care about the fact that Yama was rescuing those dead and injured, as their entire being was completely irrelevant to him. So, instead of caring about them, Nagato, who has already gathered enough chakra and visual prowess, stretched out his right hand and released his visual jutsu, Shinra Tensei.